I clearly don't know how to pour water.
Alright guys, so here it is, my top 7 films of 2018. Why not 10? Why not 5? My favorite number is 7, and I'm really indecisive, so I thought, instead of just being, the traditional 5 or 10 list kind of guy, first of all, 10, I don't even think I've seen that many that are that good to fill up a 10 list. And 5 is a bit too hard, so we got 7, so let's get right into it. And just as an FYI, none of these are in any specific order, so let's just hop right into it. So, the first on my list is one that came out recently, I believe around November, and that's Bohemian Rhapsody. I never got to do a review on this, just because I didn't really have that much time to, and I just never really could get around to it. But Bohemian Rhapsody, it has a lot of flaws, as many biopics nowadays do, just with inaccuracies. Especially with this film, it kind of reminded me of All Eyes on Me, especially with, all the inaccuracies. And as a pretty, vivid Queen fan, just seeing some things like out of order, for instance, they would play a song that came out in 1982, and like the time period that would be current in that film would be 1977. So that kind of tripped me out a bit. But the one shining thing in this film is the performances and the set pieces. Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury is one of the most accurate depictions of anyone I've seen in a biopic. It's just, I mean, just the way he would move on stage or talk to his bandmates, just, you would figure that's something exactly that Freddie would do. The Live Aid performance as the final sequence of the film really got me emotional. I was kind of getting choked up just for the fact that this performance that is iconic and legendary, you get to look at it through a brand new lens. You're on the stage with Freddie, and Brian May, John Deacon, and Roger Taylor. And those actors that played those I just named, they did an amazing performance as well. The soundtrack's great. The story is a bit kind of, it's a little rocky in some places, but if you're just a fan of Queen, as I am, and a fan of music, then you would definitely enjoy this film. 1, 2, 1, 2. My next film for discussion is Strangers 2, Pray at Night. Where's it? Strangers Pray at Night. Strangers 2! This film was very interesting. It's not really what I was expecting, and I feel as if it's not what many people are expecting, especially jumping from the original to now this. Personally, myself, I think that this film does a lot better and overall is a better film than the original. And that might be, well, it definitely is objective, because I'm a big fan of slasher films from the 80s and the 70s, and that's exactly what this feels like. It feels like a slasher film from the 70s or 80s that just got plopped into 2018. Just the sequences that would transpire in it, especially the scene at the pool at the motel, was completely awesome. The sound choice, the lighting was absolutely beautiful. Of course, in some parts it gets a little bit ridiculous, as most horror films nowadays do. It gets a bit ridiculous. But overall, if you're just looking for a fun ride and you're a fan of horror, go see it. It's a great watch, and personally myself, I think it's better than the original. My next film for discussion is Avengers Infinity War. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the MCU. It's just a lot of films to keep up with, and personally myself, I feel like a lot of them are pretty cookie cutter and feel similar. But having missed a good number of Marvel films and just being plopped right into this, prior to this I had seen Black Panther, which is a really great film, by the way. Just missed this list. But I just saw Black Panther, and that was one of the first Marvel films I had seen in a good bit. And just being plopped into this whole plot with all these new characters, it was quite the experience. The characters were fleshed out. It didn't feel like a typical Marvel film. It felt like an actual film. The characters were fleshed out. There was new arcs introduced, and arcs were completed from prior films. Especially with the character of Gamora and just everything she goes through, and Thanos. Thanos is not just some big hulking villain that tries to destroy the world without a purpose. He does have a purpose, and he's a complex character, and I just find that to be pretty admirable. And oh my gosh, just the sequences towards the end, especially in Wakanda, those were absolutely great. Obviously, if you're a fan of the MCU, you've seen this. But if you're not necessarily, as I am, and you kind of want to dabble in it a little bit, or just see what all the hype's about, you should definitely check it out. So this film, it just puts a smile on my face thinking about it. It was one of the most surprising and genuinely exciting movies of the year. And that would be Blumhouse's Upgrade. Upgrade is straight out of the 80s. 80s or 90s. It's a neo-noir kind of feel. It reminds me of the Terminator or RoboCop just combined. Just in a modern age, presented without any cheese. Just straight badassery, if you will. This film, everything about it, all the performances were great. Who played that main character? I'm about to look that up. Logan Marshall Green. He had to go through so many different varieties of emotions. He had to go to so many places. And his stunts in this film were awesome. This film is definitely one of the bloodiest of the year and definitely one of the most hard-hitting. I really enjoyed the score. Blumhouse, sometimes they get a lot of crap for typical horror movies nowadays, but this was completely surprising and awesome in my opinion. I hadn't really seen that many advertisements for this, but whenever I got to watch it, I felt like I found this hidden gem of a film because it wasn't getting that much hype around it, and it didn't make crazy money. I don't even think it grossed over $100 million, but it is one of the most awesome action-packed movies. I would put it up there with movies like The Matrix or Kill Bill as far as stunts and fighting goes. It's awesome, guys. I still need to get the Blu-ray for it just because I need to relive how surprising and exciting it was. The ending was kind of but in the grand scheme it doesn't even matter because how much fun and how much I enjoyed the overall film. My next film up for discussion, I don't have that much to say about because it's not really fresh in my mind, but Mission Impossible Fallout was a great just experience. That's all I could say. It was an experience. It's kind of goofy for me to have seen it without seeing any of the prior Mission Impossibles, but I almost feel like I didn't need to see it with those prior ones in mind. The plot of this film wasn't exactly one of the best, but for pure action and kind of like an Indiana Jones vibe in a way, I would definitely go out and purchase this and plop it in anytime you just want to kind of get, feel your pulse a little bit, because that's what this film is. It's just blood pumping, and it's kind of hard to find something not to really like about it. Next, we're going to be talking about Halloween 2018. This is the second to last on the list. Halloween 2018, after letting it resonate for a bit, it was really, I think it lived up to the hype. It was a great film. Just some things weren't executed as good as I would hope. But overall, if you're a fan of John Carpenter's Halloween, which who isn't, and if you're not, then But if you're a fan of John Carpenter's Halloween, go do yourself a favor and see this. Alright, speed round. This is Honorable Mentions Netflix edition, and it features 2 films and 1 television show. And why would it feature 1 television show whenever this is top the 7 films of 2018? Well, I don't know, but this is my own custom list. This is the Brand Jord list, and let's get started. So, a mention from Netflix is The Ritual. It's a very unique horror film. You don't really see much like it often. It kind of reminds me of Blair Witch, but if Blair Witch was actually good. Evil Genius. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life. And if you don't really like documentaries, then you would love this one. It deals with crime. It's like a true crime documentary. And it deals with this guy that was sent out to rob a bank, and he was held hostage, and he had a bomb strapped around his neck, and if he wasn't able to get the money back in time, the bomb would blow up on his neck, and he ended up dying, and they had to try and find out who set this up and who did this. It's giving me chills just thinking about it. Go, please watch it. And the TV show in this top 7 film list, F is for Family. F is for Family is created by Vince Vaughn, and that might throw you off a bit because Vince Vaughn nowadays isn't that funny anymore. But this show, I should say, is absolutely hilarious. Bill Burr is in it. Justin Long is in it. It's great. It deals with a family from the 70s, and you know they're just trying to live their lives, and it's super entertaining. It's kind of like Family Guy if Family Guy was a lot more entertaining in a way. And my final film up for discussion on the top 7 best films of 2018 would be, drumroll please, okay, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Oh my gosh, guys. I'm gonna geek out for a couple of minutes. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse reinvigorated the character of Spider-Man to me. I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Holland. I think he does a great job. Personally, my favorite is Tobey Maguire, his Spider-Man. Let me tell you, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales, this Spider-Man is my second favorite Spider-Man. And, oh my gosh, I need to compose myself. Okay, cut. The best way I could describe this film is a ride. The visuals, oh my goodness, the visuals are absolutely beautiful. I'm not the biggest fan of animated movies, not to be that guy, but I'm kind of, you know, a pretty typical guy. I enjoy my Pixar, and yeah, I enjoy my Pixar. The visuals that were presented to us in this movie were some of the, I think it might be top 3 animated films I've ever seen as far as visuals go and visual storytelling, and the way they incorporated aspects from a comic book into this film to make it feel like a moving comic book. The best way I could describe this film is like that game that came out around like 2012 or 10 or something like that. It was a long time ago. I never played it, but I just would always see the ads for it. I believe it was called Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and there was just all different types of Spider-Man in that universe that you could play as Spider-Man. Would that be correct? Spider people? The characters that are featured in this film, I just want to see spin-offs of their universe. It's, oh my gosh, it just gets me so excited thinking back to this film because it was so unique and different. The storytelling and the main plot was so emotional and emotionally driven. It felt really personal. The relationship of Miles with his dad and his uncle just shined throughout this film. Their performances, although it was just voice acting, accompanied by the beautiful visuals and the inflection and tone in their voice, made for some of the best performances of the year, in my opinion. The soundtrack was awesome. Me and my friends listen to it all the time, which I just find really funny because they're not the type of people that listen to movie soundtracks, but in a way it's sort of like the Black Panther soundtrack. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and it's hard to find a main central flaw with this film. The only one thing that I could really critique in a way is going back to whenever I was talking about Thanos and how he was a complex character and not just some hulking villain. I feel like in this film, though he is given some character depth, the character of Kingpin, he's definitely kind of that typical hulking villain. But oh my gosh, it's just, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things because Miles Morales finally made it into a film and he owns it. And now I can safely assure that Miles Morales is definitely going to be in, you know, people's favorite Spider-Mans, you know, out of all the different kind of actors and universes we got, he's going to be up there. People are going to talk about him. And I just hope they make a sequel, and I hope it's good. First of all, we need to set in stone. We need to have a good story and everything laid out and everything treated well and treated right, because you don't want to mess this up, because this film has a really high rating, and although ratings don't matter, it just makes you feel good. And I like, it's hard in superhero movies, you know, there's a lot of action, there's funny quips and stuff, but at the center of this film, there's heart. And you can see the heart just, going through the screen and projecting to you, and you feel it. And that's why I love Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Alright guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, please make sure to subscribe if you're not already, and make sure to drop a like on it, and I really appreciate it. Name me some of your favorite films of this year, and drop it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you for all the support on my last video of the Us trailer reaction. And if you have any ideas of videos you would like to see from me, just go ahead and drop some suggestions in the comments below. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for more videos. Best film of 2018?